So hello everybody. Today we are going to discuss the gear geometry. In the last class we discussed the different types of gears and the basic feature of a gear. And in this class we will study a typical gear nomenclature by taking a specific or a general shape of a tooth of a gear. So in the last class we had already studied that if we have two shafts and for example this is shaft number 1, this is shaft number 2, these are supported on some bearings and we need to transfer power from shaft number 1 to shaft number 2. So in order to do this function we need to have some gears. And how the gears were generated? We took for example, a generating line and then we rotate this generating line about the particular shaft, and similarly for the other shaft, that will generate the basic geometry of a gear. So in this case, it will be like this. This is one gear and this will be the another gear. And if we look these gears from this end, these will be in the form of two discs, in the form of two discs. Okay, fine. And these two are in contact with each other. Now we started the theory of gear by considering these discs as the friction discs, and then in order to maintain the no slip condition, we created some teeth on the surface of these friction disc, and with the help of these teeth on the surface of the disc, okay, similarly for the other disc, the power from one shaft is converted or transferred from one shaft to another shaft. So this gear has teeth like this, for example, parallel to the surface of the shaft axis. So this is the example of a spur gear. Okay, now if you closely look these friction disc, on which the gear profiles are generated, we could see that this particular gear geometry involves three circles. One circle is this, which represents the lower portion of the teeth. Another circle is this, which represents the top surface of the teeth. And the third circle, which is the considered friction discs. So a particular gear profile will have three circles, for example. And all these measurements, for example, if we need to measure the distance of the upper circle, so this will be measured with respect to the middle circle, and for the lower as well. So we measure all the dimensions of a particular gear with respect to this middle circle. Why? Because this circle represents the shape of the friction disc which we consider. So the gear teeth profile was generated by keeping in mind the diameter of that friction disc. So this is the one of the most important parameter of a gear geometry. So now directly coming to the gear geometry, in order to understand the gear geometry, I have taken an example of a spur gear, and any two teeth of the spur gear were considered to explain the gear geometry in a better way. Okay, so this is the two teeths which I have considered to explain it. This is the two teeths which I have considered in order to explain the gear geometry in a better way. So if we look at the particular tooth, we can realize that there are three circles. The first circle I am marking is the this one, and this circle represents the, this is the first circle, the lowest circle. This circle is defined as the dedendum or root circle. Another circle is located here at the top of the teeth profile, and this is called as the addendum circle. And a circle between these two, this one, it is called as the pitch circle. So this is the addendum circle, this is the dedendum circle, and this is the pitch circle. Okay, these three circles are clear. Just above the dedendum circle we have another circle, this one. This is called as the clearance. This is called as the difference between the dedendum circle and this drawn circle is called as the clearance. This is called as the okay, clearance. Now coming to the tooth, this top portion of the tooth, this top portion of the tooth, this one, this is known as the top land. This is known as the top land. Okay, and this profile of the tooth, and this profile of the tooth, this one, this profile of the tooth till the pitch circle, till the pitch circle is called as the face of the tooth. And the lower portion and the lower part of the tooth, from here, from pitch circle to the bottom of the, or to the dedendum circle of the tooth, this is represented or called, this one is called as the flank. This is called as the flank. Since this top portion of the tooth is known as the top land, this one, so the bottom area or the bottom portion of the tooth, this one, is known as the bottom land. This is known as the bottom land. The distance of the one profile of the tooth to the another side of the tooth, this much, is known as tooth thickness. This is known as tooth thickness. Okay, and the total depth, this represents the, this is the one circle, addendum circle, this one, Let me draw it again. This is the addendum circle. So from here to the dedendum circle, that represents the total depth of the tool, which can be given as addendum plus dedendum. That represents the total depth of the tooth. Total depth of the tooth. Okay, fine. Now one more thing is the pitch, and for pitch we have this. If we consider one point on the face of the tooth and at the same location on the consequent tooth, we locate the point and we measure the distance between these two points, that will give us the circular pitch. That is defined as the circular pitch. That is defined as the circular pitch. I hope this is clear. Okay, that defined as the circular pitch. In order to mesh this particular gear profile with another gear profile, the circular pitch for the both gears should be same, and mathematically this circular pitch is defined, for example represented at PC, is given as pi d t, where t represents the number of teeths. Okay, so by this we can calculate the circular pitch. Fine. Now this particular curve which is provided here on the tooth surfaces is called as fillet. This is called as the fillet. Fine. And this particular distance, one more point, this distance, this gap between the two teeth is known as space, is known as tooth space. The gap between the two tooths is known as, let me write it here, tooth space. So when this gear